Hello again. Well, today I'm going to talk about adapting an adjust true feature to grinder workheads. And I have a good example here that I did 22 years ago. And let's have a look at this thing. I'll get over here and see if I can get you closer. See what I can do. Come on. It moves slowly at first, smoothly, but I don't know. We'll see if we can make this work. Get you very close up here. There we go. I think that's okay. Lock her up. Lock this. Lock that. I think we're pretty good right there. Okay. This is a Sioux valve grinder. And I did this modification here in February of 1999. And the Sioux valve grinder kind of had a chuck kind of like this, kind of like a Jacobs chuck, except it used balls. And they're just not very accurate. In the 1990s, valve specs were really tightened up to on a lot of inches to 0.2 of a thousandths for concentric with the valve face and the stem. And I'll show you what I did to this grinder. Now, at the time, the only grinder that would hold that was a Sonnen centerless valve grinder, and it cost $7,000. And that was kind of a rough thing to pay, you know, if you're a small shop working in power sports. And I did two of these grinders for another guy that was doing automotive cylinder heads. And he retired, and he gave me one of the grinders that I fixed up for him, and this is one of them. And I'll show you what I did here. Okay, this is an adjust true chuck. Get that valve out of there. And this is an Erickson extension chuck. And uses Erickson 100 collets. The neat thing about this is you can get behind the valve real well and add more angles. That became fashionable way back then. I don't do much of this work anymore. Everything's changed so much. But this thing definitely met the 0.2 of a thousandths for concentric, excuse me. And, you know, you can use a more modern style chuck, but, you know, I would go with the Erickson just because of the access it has. Now let's take this thing apart and I'll show you how I built it. Use this. Only got one screw holding it. Because I want to show you what I did. There we go. Okay, there's the front piece. And you can see I just sawed off one of these collet extensions and stuck it in this front piece here. This is made out of 4140. Just standard old stuff. I make everything out of 4140. I don't use much mild steel. That's the front piece. You can see I pushed the collet chuck extension in there after sawing it off. Okay. Now here's the back piece. Let's see if we can get the light in here. And this here was one of the most rude things I had to do to a machine, because I actually had to take a cutoff wheel and cut this chuck thing off that spindle. And I don't know why it has these threaded holes here, but I suspect that this is a piece of scrap that already had those. They look kind of rusty. Those were already in there. But honestly, you know, when I make tools for myself, I make them out of scrap. I don't buy anything, you know. Use new material for customers' parts, but for tools for the shop and things like this, I'll use scrap. Good scrap. This, you know, was probably a water pump shaft or something like that. But I had to take abrasive cutoff wheel and cut the other chuck or this foundation off, make that flat, then attach this. And I'm not real sure how I attached it. I know it was 22 years ago. But I'm sure I pulled the spindle out. Now I'm going to detach the camera here and show you real close about this workhead. Now this is a valve grinder. Now what's neat about this old Sioux is this is a plain bearing workhead. It's not ball bearing at all. It's cast iron with a hard steel shaft running in the cast iron. And I'm sure I pulled the shaft off, sawed it off. Then this piece right here is the back piece of the adjust true that I made. This is original part of the Sioux spindle. So I whacked it off here. I remember it was pretty hard, and I believe I might have drilled and tapped screws from behind the thick piece here. But anyway, I attached this piece, then made this front piece that goes in there. You see it's a little bit loose, and then you adjust it with these side screws. See that? I got 3 of those. That's all it needs. And that's what I didn't have that very good. Let me show you again. Here's the side screws here for adjusting. There's 3 of them. And they push on the front piece here. See, just kind of push it around just a little bit inside, not much, to get that to run absolutely true. Then I probably scrape the face a little bit to get a piece running true a few inches out, out here, to complete it. But this is how back 22 years ago we saved $7,000 not having to buy the fanciest valve grinder to meet the new specs of 2 10,000s. Now you'll notice in the last 20 or 30 years, engines run longer and they run better. It's because the specs have been tightened up. But what's kind of funny about this, the Harbor Freight mini lathe guys are doing this stuff on their mini lathes. But yeah, you can certainly do that on any grinder workhead. So I thought this might be a little bit of an interesting video. You might like to see that. And hey, let's hear an old Sioux valve grinder run. Yeah, see, these are precision, these old Sioux. I'm not sure what model this one is. It is a 660, I think. Or that's the, maybe that's what it is. You can probably see it better than I can. Okay, that's an old Sioux valve grinder. To actuate the workhead, you move the lever over and see, and it kicks on. Kicks off there. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay. Just an idea for you guys. It might come in handy for something. Check you later.